Gentleman from Indiana is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the distinguished chairman for yielding and for his leadership on this issue, which is near and dear to my heart, as it is to the hearts of thousands upon thousands of families in the District of Columbia. I also rise in opposition to the Norton funding amendment. The gentlelady knows she and I have worked together on occasion on issues. I know her devotion to the District of Columbia, but we will just have to respectfully disagree on this issue. Because I simply believe that the Scholarships for Opportunities and Results Act represents the continuation of one of the most important programs that I've had the privilege of being a part of here in Washington, D.C. Now, there's a suggestion that this legislation takes money away from the public schools, but I think, as we've heard in this debate, because of the three-sector approach created by the original authorizing legislation, district public schools and public charter schools have received over $250 million in additional direct federal payments since 2004. Both DCPS and the charter schools will continue to receive increased federal dollars under this legislation. So the old arguments against giving students and parents more choices because it denies funding to public schools don't even attach here on the facts. But beyond that, let me say the reason why I felt the need to come to the floor today, the reason why I so respect Speaker John Boehner's leadership on this issue, is because of meetings that I've had in my office with oftentimes the teary-eyed parents of children in the District of Columbia. I'll just never forget last year meeting with moms and dads from the District of Columbia, most of them from the minority community, who came to me with tears in their eyes and said, "I have one child that is in a private school. I was able to take advantage of the DC scholarship, but because this administration in the last Congress terminated it, I cannot give that other opportunity to their younger brother or sister." And they literally came to me at that time, and I was in a leadership position in the Republican majority, and said, "Please do something about this." And my heart went out to those families. And we had an election. And now we find ourselves in a renewed Republican majority, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives today is a man who probably has a larger heart for kids as a former chairman of the Education Committee than maybe any other former speaker in the history of this institution. And so we find ourselves at this moment when I can say with no small amount of emotion, I can say to those families, yes, we're going to put this scholarship back. We're going to say to the rest of your children that they deserve the best choice for their education future as well. And it's a noble moment for this Congress. You know, the old book tells us that whatever you do for the least of these, that you do for him. I think this is one of those moments where we look at families that are struggling under the weight of some of the most beleaguered public schools in America, and we're putting our arms around those families and saying, we're going to give you more choices. We're going to let you as parents, regardless of your race or income or status in society, we're going to give you the opportunity to make the same choice for a public school as a private school and a public school and a charter school as Americans who have the means to do so can make. And let me also say, I see this debate over educational choice, whether it's in the District of Columbia or in my own beloved Indiana, as all tied up in the debate over education reform that has been manifest throughout this country over the last half century and more. I mean, there was a day almost in my lifetime, it's just on the periphery of my lifetime, when some stood in the schoolhouse door and said, "You may not come in." But we fixed that as a nation. And now there are some in the massive education establishment in this country who stand in the schoolhouse door and say, "You may not come out. You may not have the same choices that other Americans have simply because of your means and your condition in life." The Scholarship for Opportunity Results Act levels the playing field.
I would yield the gentleman an additional 30 seconds.
It
Gentleman's
opens,
recognized for 30 seconds.
the SOAR Act opens the schoolhouse door. It reopens the door for opportunities for these families and for their children in the District of Columbia. And I believe it was before a model for the nation, and it can be so again. And so I encourage my colleagues to join me in respectfully opposing the Norton funding amendment, but vigorously supporting H.R. 471. Let's stand with those families. Let's put joy in their hearts. Let's create a boundless future for their children. Let's pass the Scholarship for Opportunities and Results Act. And I yield back.
Time of the gentleman has expired. The gentlelady from the